Good morning, everybody. Hope you all are doing well today. First and foremost, want to welcome you to the first session of Crisis Communication as part of Appalachian State Department of Communication. My name is Dr. Emery Stephen Daniel Jr., preferably to go by Dr. Daniel if you so mind. At the same time, I do answer to Emery or Stephen. Is usually if it's something not derogatory or rude, I will probably answer to it. I want to mention that this will be the course overview of crisis communication, basically a syllabi day. Talk a little bit about myself, this class, as well as hopefully get to know y'all a little bit better. So we're going to run with this as quickly as we can through the syllabi. If you have any questions, please email me, and let's get started. So this is Crisis Communication Summer 2 term. It is a 5-week class. I will mention some of the first ways to contact me. I will hold office hours from 1 to 3. It will more likely be 1 to 2, and I only say that it just depended on how many people show up to office hours. So if it is a lot of people that come in, I could definitely stay longer, but at the same time, if we're getting a consistent no-shows as everything that goes on, I'll probably just limit it to an hour. I will send out a Zoom link every week starting next week about that information and let you know when it is available. My email is the best way to contact me, daniel.es@appstate.edu. Emphasis on the ES on this case because that is my first and middle initial. I do not have an S in my last name, and that has caused some problems with the email. So just letting you know that preemptively. But I do have a small email grace policy. Please allow 12 hours. If I didn't respond, feel free to send your message again. But if you email me somewhere around 10 o'clock at night and later, please note that the response that you will get will probably be sometime in the morning. So please be well aware of that. All right, course description. I'm not going to stick too far on a lot of these things here, but I do want to make sure that they are known. This class in particular is talking about what else? Crisis communication and risk assessment. Moreover, what we talk about within public relations and organizational communication is how we handle crisis within those kind of things. So, we talk about first and foremost things like risk assessment, which are largely looking at problems before they even occur. So, if there's something going on in your operation of business, whether it be through a problem that an employee has, or there's something that a stakeholder or a consumer has recognized issues with your company, how do you handle that? Do you handle that? Is it something you ignore? Is it something that you address? What is it about what you're doing that makes it something that you can respond before it even gets into any public forum? So we'll talk about a lot about risk assessment in that capacity. The other thing we can do is talk about crisis communication, issue communication, and so forth. And that's the severity of a wrongdoing that has occurred, whether it's unintentional or intentional, things that you can control, things you can't control. This is probably a good time that we will be talking about the pandemic quite a bit. Um, may, Only because this is something that we couldn't anticipate. It's nothing wrong um, with what any organization is doing. However, we're all having to face it in some capacity, and we all have to come up with creative solutions to make sure that we're in a good spot to make our industry continue to run. So that's kind of the basic tenets of the course. I want to be able to help you be able to communicate through crisis. If many of you decide to go into fields like public relations and so forth, I do have 2 required texts. Kathleen Fern-Banks, Crisis Communication and Casebook, as well as Lanny Davis. You can get both of these on Amazon. I don't mind if you decide to get older versions of these as well. That's totally fine. They are a hair dated, but they're also extremely good books. And we will be going over quite a few crisis case studies within Lanny Davis. So make sure that y'all pick those up as soon as possible. Doesn't need to be this week, and I don't think it needs to be next week, but at the same time, third week definitely so. So make sure that you're ordering it. I encourage e-readers in the summer. However, if you do not have an e-reader or don't like looking at the lights from your computer, make sure that you get this ASAP. So this is a lot of work. This particular class requires you to do things in groups in the semester. The main reason for that is crisis plans can be a bit lengthy, and I don't want to have it to where you're going to be overwhelmed by week 5 at the end of the semester, where you're trying to draw something up and there's just too much to handle. So the way it works with, I believe, 8 people in this course is we will be dividing the the class in half and have you doing your own separate crisis plan. So that's the goal, is to write up a crisis plan. And oddly enough, I've had students show crisis plan to potential clients that they would want to present them to, and 1 or 2 of them have taken it. So that's kind of cool, you know. So the goal in any of my classes is to always make sure that you've got something that you could hypothetically publish and give to an employer or a client. I don't go a little bit in terms of classroom etiquette, technology, and communication, and so forth. We're not going to worry about that too much when it comes to online materials. So, but suffice it to say, what I will mention is the way I do things in this class is I give lectures Monday through Thursday. So they'll probably be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes long to try to make sure that your attention span isn't burnt out by the end of it. I do have retention reports from YouTube, so I know when people are starting to tune out. But at the same time, I want to keep things brief. I want to keep things to the content specifically. I will also mention that every single one of these classes is going to be asynchronous, and the reason for that is I don't know what summer schedules look like. It's very specific to summer schedules, so if it is something that within the summer schedule that you have, whether it be working at a particular job or whether you're just being for home, I want to respect your schedule as much as humanly possible. So the way I do things is I will post discussion boards, as well as journals, as well as um, asynchronous presentations that I will be giving. And you can respond on the due dates. They're either Mondays or Thursdays, as you need to. But see that you're watching videos and doing assignments on time, but as you see fit. So if you're a person that likes to get up, get going, and complete something right away, great. If you're someone that needs a little time and wants to put something together and turn it in towards the last minute, I mean, I don't encourage last minute anything, but at the same time, that's fine too. Just make sure that, I would say, do so in somewhat of a rhythm. This is 5 weeks, so try to dedicate yourself as much as you can towards your summer classes. And I mainly say that because this goes by quick. There's a lot of work. And if you are not letting it stack up, then it's all for the better. So making sure that we go through this. So the other thing I'll mention is special assistance. You'll see here. If you need to contact the Office of Disability Service, please do so post haste and do so quickly, just so I can know what accommodations I need to make. Happy to do so, but it is something that I need a letter from them to make sure that I am compliant and I'm doing my part to make sure that I can better serve you. There's also the Writing Center. If you're having issues with anything, just make sure to contact and email them. Obviously, if you need that help, that is a great resource. Try not to, obviously, with academic dishonesty, please don't cheat. I think that goes without saying. We don't have any tests in this course, but I don't want any plagiarized work, especially when it comes to press releases about what people do. I try to check every single one of the works for plagiarism in terms of looking through not only some basic checkers, but also I go through multiple websites to make sure that this isn't something. So make sure that you're not doing that. I don't want to spend too much time on it. You should know, but this is a very serious topic here. Uh, I'm not going to say too much on this because, again, a lot of this is for potential in class. So I'm not going to go too much into depth here. I will talk a little bit about grading, grading criteria that you see blogs, story, or news release. The way I grade these things are A's, B's, C's, and D's, and F's are all going to be um, within consideration of how likely am I to publish it as is. So if you hand me in something that I'm like, hey, this looks really good and I could publish it right now, that's A worthy material. B is publishable with major editing. C is not publishable. D or F is something that, excuse me, A's are publishable as is. B's are published in minor editing. C is publisher with major editing, and then not publishable is D or F. So make sure you're doing so in a capacity that is readable, is thorough, and is done in such a way that I'm like, yeah, this could go to print immediately. I will say I'm a very big stickler when it comes to this kind of rule set, but at the same time, I do offer a grace policy that if you turn something in, and that is the press release and the Apologia report, as well as journals. If you turn those in, which is, I guess, 55% of your grade, if you turn those in and let's say you get a C or a D on them, you can turn them back with edits. And I will give you some points back to improve your grade. So, even though I'm a stickler for it because I want to make sure this is crisis communication, so good communication is of the absolute 100% essence. But at the same time, there is also an editorial process throughout your career, so I want to be able to respect that as well. So you'll see this kind of project is going to be the main source of things, and I'll show you what that looks like in the schedule. Final project is groups of, in this case, 4. You are going to turn in a crisis plan. I will show that very early on in the semester of what that might look like, give you an example, and then I will have you choose a client and you'll get to it. But we'll also have Apologia press release and report that is going to be, in this case, actually it will be an individual grade. So again, we'll get into that as well. We'll also have journals that you'll need to complete. But anyway, so with this, you'll see how the schedule works here. I didn't put July 2nd because I'm just going to mention that I'll do one lecture for that about what is crisis communication, as well as note taking. But right now, it's just basically welcoming to class and what you can expect for this class. You will have some weekend homework, which is a dream job write-up. This only has to be 2 or 3 paragraphs, but just giving me a quick journal about what is your dream job? What are you trying to get out of this class? Why are you taking it? And see what we can do to better accommodate. That's another thing I like to focus on, is try to customize things as we go along here. So anyway, try your best to get the book as soon as possible. If you can't, we'll make do and we'll figure something out. But just letting you know that. But you'll see all the dates here and when things are due. You'll see that journals come up pretty quickly, so make sure that you're working with those. One thing I will mention is try to make sure that you've got a computer with a camera, and if you don't, please let me know ASAP, because I do speeches for this case. I've got 2 that I will want you to do. One is an apologia and one is a chapter brief. For being able to do that. Your final paper will not have a presentation attached to it, but I do want to mention that we've got 2 presentations that you will individually record yourself and then post online. So just letting you know that off the bat. But as you can see, it's very intensive. Like I said, how these work is we'll have case studies as well as journals. Journals are due on Thursday, and then case studies will be due on Monday. So just letting you know that. So that's the basics of the syllabi. If you have any questions, please let me know at your earliest convenience. So if I need to make any edits or so forth, or talk about any accommodations, just let me know. The other things I'll mention is we do have, let's see here. There we go. We do have a section called About You. And provided my internet's okay, it is good. Where you will fill in your name, your major, any hobbies, and what you want to get out of this class. So make sure you fill that in by the beginning of the week. This week, upcoming on Monday. So do that as soon as possible, um, so I can get to know you a little bit better. I will mention I've got a small segment about myself. This is my this is me. I'll sometimes do lectures as on camera, but most times I'll just be doing it like as you see here. Qualifications with this: I actually went to school here once upon a time. Then I went to Virginia Tech and got a PhD at North Dakota State University, where I initially started in crisis communication. So I've got a couple published pieces about crisis communication. But I've worked with many media companies. I still work as a consultant for many media companies, which has a lot to do with risk assessment and crisis management. I am going to try to bring in some real world applications from some people, and hopefully get some interviews with them about how they've handled some things, and really try to get the best out of it. Research interest: I do a lot with computer mediated communication, so teaching an online course is something that's very much in line with what I do. But for this class's purposes, I do a lot with corporate social responsibility, which is being a civic leader within the community as an organization. So we'll talk more about that. Born and raised in Nash County, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, the city on the rise, as they call it. But usually, if anybody asks, I'm from Raleigh, as I lived there for quite a bit. This is my better half, Melissa. She is my rock. She is awesome. She is also our administrative specialist. So if you have any questions about um, general communication within this course, she is the person to go to. So make sure to be nice to her, as she is the glue that holds this department together. We cannot do all the things that we do without her. So again, be nice to her. These are her fur children, Nella and Bjorn. Gosh, I'm looking at these pictures now, and I'm like, golly, they have aged quite a bit. They are old pups, German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois, and a brown lab, as well as, oh gosh, what is he? Chesapeake Bay as Bjorn. So they are dogs. They are pretty happy that we are with them like 24 hours a day as the pandemic is going along. But yeah, so good dogs. It is good to be home. Uh, Again, going to school at App State, I try to travel a lot. However, obviously that has been limited so recently. That's fine. But I like hiking. I like running. I go to the Greenway a lot to go running as much as possible, with the bounds of being safe. But it's mainly stats and good beer. I am a big statistician, so we'll actually have a segment where we talk a little bit about some stats and how that works within crisis management. But yeah, those are things that I love to do. I also love sports, which will have a section about sports and crisis communication. A lot of really serious stuff, but also some fun stuff that people have done to help with their reputation management. I can think of a couple examples right off the bat when it comes to German soccer about how they've done things. So very much into college sports, very much into pro football with my Bills. Hopefully, now that Cam Newton has signed with New England, this won't be too much of a problem, but who knows? So I've got a very range of spectrum of teams that are good versus not so good. West Ham is probably going to get relegated this season, as well as Pittsburgh. If there was a relegation system in baseball, they would. And I also love entertainment media. As much as I still have been debating to take Game of Thrones out of there because I thought the finale was pretty bad, but I don't think it justifies how good that show was um, in its prime. So I still leave it up here. But I do a lot of work with video games, so I play a lot of video games. and publish a lot about video games. So this is kind of an area that falls within my expertise within advertising because it is a very big market right now, especially with streaming services being what they are right now. So that's a bit about myself. I don't want to stick too far on that, but I always like to engage in small talk if need be. To kind of make things a little bit more approachable. So that's it for the day. I'll be talking more about like what is crisis communication on Thursday, so be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye bye.